In 1959, communist Cuban revolutionary Fidel Castro overthrew then-President Fulgencio Batista's regime. During the height of the Cold War, the United States found a nation they were ideologically opposed to right on their doorstep. It made for a frosty relationship.
Many people thought after the collapse of the Cold War, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, that soon Cuba would collapse itself. And so in 1992, in an effort to tighten control over the island, the US Congress passed the Cuba Democracy Act to tighten the embargo, to make illegal US tourism, and require an act of Congress to be able to change the embargo.
In 2014, 6 years after Fidel Castro had stepped down and handed the power to his brother, Raul Castro, then-President Barack Obama announced normalization of relations between Cuba and the United States in a series of efforts later called the Cuban Thaw.
He announced a series of openings or loopholes that would allow US citizens to travel to Cuba and stay in private bed and breakfasts that are all over Cuba, largely as a result of economic reforms that were launched by Raul Castro. Cubans really began to talk about the future in Cuba, which they hadn't. They'd always been waiting until after the Castros or waiting for something. The engagement with the United States opened up a process of change.
But 5 months after Donald Trump took office, the new president announced several acts that are viewed as an effort to roll back Obama's Cuba policies.
Donald Trump, in June of this year, announced a series of changes in Miami that eventually came out as regulation.
In October, an alleged sonic attack put a further strain on the diplomatic relationship between the two countries.
There are over 20 US diplomats stationed in Havana that were complaining of nausea, dizziness, hearing loss, headaches. We really don't know what the cause of that was. But as a result, we removed those 20 diplomats and then actually removed another 40 more and then kicked out 15 to 16 Cuban diplomats in the embassy. When Trump pulled these 60 diplomats from the US Embassy in Havana, it basically means that they're no longer processing visas. There used to be about 20,000 visas a year were allocated to Cuban citizens. They no longer are being processed.
The Cuban political scene is also undergoing huge change as the country plans to transfer power to a new leader.
There will be a transition. For the first time in Cuba's history since 1959, Castro will not be governing. They've designated Miguel Diaz-Canel a party apparatchik. He will become the next president of Cuba.
A change of leadership in Cuba could provide a breath of fresh air to the country and help ease tensions with the United States. Still, the Caribbean nation faces significant challenges ahead.
First of all, still in the Politburo, they're mostly very old, white, Cuban-American men who fought in the revolution, who will not give this new successor much space. Even if Raul completely leaves the scene, a lot of his comrades from the revolutionary days remain, and they're very, very committed. The second is we don't know how far away Raul will go. Will he remain on the Politburo? The third thing is that Raul has a son, Alejandro, who is supposedly a real power behind the throne for Raul Castro, so he may also remain amon gris behind the throne, which could limit the latitude for this new president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, to change course, change direction.
Right now, Cuba's future remains uncertain.
I think the question and the unknown is, how will people react? People who've grown tired of the shortages, people who've grown tired of the lack of freedom, people who've grown tired of just waiting for some sort of change, will they see this January 2018 transfer of power as an opportunity to assert their rights?